Boker Tov and Shabbat Shalom from Israel. This is Rivka Bitterman. That's what my 2 Sahut says. Or Becca Bitterman. That's what my U.S. passport says. Take your choice. I'm coming to you from the Galilee this morning. This week we were able to see the new moon on the 30th night. We went out the 29th night, my group did, and we looked for the moon, but the probability of seeing the new moon was extremely low this 29th day of this month, last month. And as far as I know, nobody in Israel was able to see the new moon without binoculars. I did check in all the other groups that I'm aware of. I believe there are only 3 groups actually. And no one did see the moon on the 29th night. Some of the people in my group went out to the second night on the 30th night, and we were able to get a window to the sky, each of us, at different times from our different areas. The clouds parted, and we all saw 3 witnesses of that moon on the 30th night. I'll drop a photo in the frame with me so you can see how dramatic it was when the sky opened and the clouds moved back, and I had about 3 to 4 minutes to grab the photo you're going to see. It's quite a spectacular sighting of the moon. So that's why I'm here talking to you today, is because according to the calendar that's based in the 7 first fruits offering, Deuteronomy 8:8 talks about 7 species, Nehemiah and I think Deuteronomy. No, it's not Deuteronomy. Excuse me. I'll drop the link to the 2 locations that actually speak of the 7 first fruits offering in Israel. They all verify that there were 7 first fruits offering that filled up or filled out the biblical calendar of giving to Elohim. So that's really an interesting concept, that when I speak about this in Israel, a lot of people aren't taken back about the number of first fruits offering that filled out the biblical calendar. But when you speak about it with the believing community, there are very few that understand there were 7 first fruits offerings that were required in their specific timing to be offered at the temple, and 3 feast dates were go up dates to appear in the temple with those first fruits offering before the God of Israel, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. So according to the witness of the 7 species in 2021, this is the biblical 12th month. So I'm turning my attention to the barley. Now, I have, of course, been watching the barley, but I haven't really been saying anything about what's going on with it past giving you the date that it actually began to exit from the earth. And that was a video. I'll put a link to the video below, and I'll put it here in this the frame. So I gave you the date that the barley and the wheat actually showed up. And then I haven't really talked a lot about the development of the earth and where we're at. So that's what I want to talk to you about next, is I want to talk to you about what's happening on the earth. You know, I'm going to drop another photo here with me in the frame. I'm taking a class near Padres Hana, which is on the coast, near the coast, towards Tel Aviv, in that general vicinity. And I bring that up because, you know, I'm going out of the property once a week. I'm in my travels, and I have a idea of what's going on the earth. But more than that, the lady I'm taking the class from, it's a class that teaches not only the production of tinctures, infusions, syrups, oils, but Orly, the lady I'm taking the class from, teaches it from what grows here in Israel on the earth. And I bring this up in connection with the development of the land because Orly has actually a master's degree and took this class 30 years ago. The nation of Israel is no longer issuing the same degree that she has. They're issuing a degree, but now you're not legally licensed to go out and forage the plants from the earth and create your own tinctures and concoctions. Now the new students have to go to a pharmacy that uses farm-grown herbs to formulate tinctures and oils and syrups. Orly has a degree that allows her to go to the earth, create her own medicines, and prescribe them to her patients. This is the class I'm taking. I'm taking the class from Orly. Orly's drive is to connect mothers and wives back to the earth and teach them how to care for their family from what grows on the land. Orly and I had a conversation the other day that went like this. Wow, already the mandrake, I'll drop the photo, are on the earth. We're seeing the recavet, I'll drop the photo, and even I am seeing some of the kalanit or the anemones, I'll drop the photo, on the earth already. Orly said, wow, this is such an unusual year. And I said, yeah, right, it is unusual. I said, and yet at the same time, the feeling that the earth is giving me by what it's doing is that the year is progressing more slowly. And she said, yes, it is slower. There's a feeling as you watch the land present you with its gifts of how quickly the pace is. And I'm going to tell you right now that pace is coming at my eyes more slowly than it was last year. So when I'm talking about the pace that the land presents its gifts to my eyes, what I'm really saying is we are a desert country. We're the Middle East, and we're not like a different country where there are 4 seasons or you have an extended green season. Our green season is very, very brief on the land. And when it starts turning green, it's like a march or a parade of colors that swiftly come on to the earth and then swiftly fade. Generally speaking, the crocuses will come out first. And the crocuses have pretty much passed, but they've been out a long time this year. My saffron has already come and gone, and I'm still seeing from some of the photos in my nature group, I'm still seeing some of the crocuses on the earth, but that flush is gone. And yet it was a long flush of crocuses, flush meaning a wave or an appearance. It was a long appearance this year. On cue with the coming out of the wild grains, the oats and the barley and the wheat, we saw the mandrakes start to appear. Genesis tells us that Reuben went out during the wheat harvest and gathered mandrakes and brought them back to Leah. And the mandrake harvest that he was making was from the fruit, not the plant or not the bloom. But they did come out in time with the grains. Immediately after that, we've seen the almonds trees have begun to bloom out already. We see that the calanites are starting to appear on the earth. But at the same time, at the very same time, there is no barley heads, or as they like to say in the other group, there is no barley out of the boot. It all just looks like grass. And it's far from showing its head yet. And when I say that there are none, I mean none in what I call a hot zone, and what Abib of God calls a hothouse effect. There's not even anything that looks like barley grains along the sides of the roads. Now I want to clarify, for Abib of God, they do not look at any fields with any stones because they say it superheats the earth, and that's not a fair measure. However, I keep my definition of a hot zone to any man-made artificial structure. I figure if Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, the God of Israel, wants to put rocks in his fields, and he did everywhere, that's his business. And he could, to say to, Natan Levi, hey, your field has rocks, it's unacceptable. That's just, you can't grow barley. If you grow barley, I'm not going to accept an offering from you if your field has rocks. I don't believe that. But I do believe the man-made structures should not be used to determine the year, because roads and buildings do superheat the earth, and barley likes those warm places, and it will show up and it will come out. The grain head will come out of the plant. And I'm not even seeing that phenomenon along the buildings and along the roads in my travels. It's not even looking like that. So things are moving very, very, very slowly at this point in time. Can it change? Yeah, it can change. In fact, yesterday, today, and possibly tomorrow, our temperature is going to jump up in the 70s. Do I expect that that's going to bring out barley heads at this point? It could. I'm highly doubtful, because the earth is so moist. And we know that as long as the rains are coming, and they're going to be coming back next week, as long as the rains are coming, as Orly says, the plant has now changed to putting all of its nutrients and its focus and its energy into the body's growth. So what I'm learning, just as a little rabbit trail that might interest you, if you're harvesting a plant for the life force that's in the root, the medicine, the nutrients that's in the root, you want to do it in the very beginning when the plant is teeny, teeny, tiny, just a few leaves. And then all of the life force still exists below the earth. But if you want to harvest something for the leaves and the stalk of the plant, to take it, the essence of it, the constituents from there, then this is the time before the bud puts out that you would be gathering the leaves. In fact, I'm doing a lot of stinging nettle right now. Good superfood with a lot of healing properties. So that's the point that the barley is at. It's putting all of its energy, all of its life force, all of the nutrients are going to make the plant taller. So we have these patterns that have been established by Abib of God for all the years that they were coming to Israel and witnessing the land, that these almond trees would bloom 30 days in advance, more or less, circa 30 days in advance of the barley being their version of Abib. And the same thing with the calanites. These are some of the patterns of the markers that they have established over their years of faithfully coming to Israel. one of two things is going to happen this year. Either the calenites or the anemones will finish earlier than the pattern that they've established, or it will be as it was with the crocuses, and it's going to be a tremendously long, extended blooming season. Same for the almonds. You know, when they land for inspections, they like to see that the almond orchards are in full swing and full bloom, the big white patches across the land. I can't say what's going to happen there. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I want to tell you the difference in my methodology. I don't have patterns that I use to predict by. Very literally, what I've been called to do is to tell you what I see developing on the land as I am right now. I'm not going to tell you that based on the kalaniot, the anemones, based on the shekedim, the almonds, that in 30 days we will have a bee barley, because that's not what I've been called to do, to predict. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I've already been asked by someone, how many days after the anemones or the kalanit is the barley going to be ready? I don't know. I don't predict. I'm not going to predict. I'm never going to predict. I'm not called to predict. I'm called to tell you what's happening on the land. And when I finally tell you that me and my household will be keeping the calendar on a specific start date, it's because I have waited and let the land mature till the last moment, basically until I have to make that call. Because then after that, then the wheat has to be ready for Shavuot. Then the grapes have to be ready in the 5th month. Then the figs have to be ready in the 6th month. In the 7th month, we're looking for the pomegranates, the dates, and the olives. I want to be sure that I've started the calendar correctly, so I don't predict. I wait for the land to present to me everything that it can present, regardless of that order. The only things that I use to predict anything really isn't a method of predicting, it's a method of verifying. If we go back to Exodus 9:31 and 32, we know that when the hail struck Egypt, that the flax was in bowl, it was blooming, and the barley was abib. We know that the rye, which history tells me now is spelt, and the black emmer wheat, the wheat was afilot, which means it was in darkness, it was hidden away, it was in obscurity. I use those to tell me that I've started the year correctly, not to predict the year. And I was a little surprised that the person who came to me asking me to predict what the barley was going to do did so, since I worked so closely with that group last year. So I'm not here predicting at all. I'm here reporting. Yes, the crocuses are fading. Yes, the almond trees are beginning to bloom. Yes, there are kalanit being seen. Yes, the mandrakes are up. No, there is no barley grain heads showing on the earth yet. I will be waiting until the towards the end of the month, another week, possibly 2, depending on what I see around me, to go out and look in all of the areas. I will be taking Israeli believers with me again this year, allowing them to examine, touch, and consider the maturity level of what we're looking at. But right now, before I begin to do that, I just wanted to tell you where we're at on the earth, and that is at this moment in time, Elohim is allowing things to come up in a slower, more extended parade on the earth. You know, I have been looking. We had a bee barley so very early this year. I have been looking at every step along the way, wondering if there would be any kind of slowdown that would require an extra lunar cycle. And we may be seeing that slowdown. Remember, this is me, you know, I'm not telling you we are. I'm telling you we may be seeing this slowdown. That may be what he's doing by extending these flushes of crocuses. And maybe we're going to get a long flush of calenites. And, you know, it's early in the season. It's still really early to say for sure that he's going to extend it by that much. Today I'm saying it feels like it, but we watch and we wait for the barley. That is the sign. I want to see flax blooming on the earth. I want to see barley in the condition of young, tender grains that can be roasted, that can grow another plant, that can make flour, and not hard kernels that are indivisible with the fingernail. I want to see that the wheat is swollen in the plant of it, and there's a head down in there that's ready to come out within a week or two after the barley is abib. And the spelt, the wild spelt, usually is in bloom, or it was last year. So I'm looking for those criteria. And you go back to Exodus 9:31, and that happened just after the first month of the year. So be patient, wait on Elohim, don't try to predict him. There's a verse in Daniel I'm going to drop here that says he's the God that changes times and season. Recognize him for who he is. He is the master gardener that's orchestrating what we get to see on this earth. Is there anything else I need to talk about? No, that's it. Enjoy your Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom from the Galilee. This is Rivka. I'd like to say thank you to those of you who do give through Patreon and PayPal. Every bit of what I receive does go back into what I do. There are things like, I've been able to buy this microphone. I've been able to pay some of the fees that, like for the newsletter that goes out for MailChimp, there's a fee attached to that. There's just, little things that accumulate, and your giving does help me take care of these expenses. And I just wanted to let you know that I very much appreciate it. And if you would like to also partake in helping with the expenses, if you've not done so before this, there will be information in the description box of the video and links on how to give.